Well, hello everybody. It's been a while since I made a video. Um, I can only put that down to not eating properly due to poverty, and that really affecting my mental health and my physical health. I spent last week setting up a video after Four Corners did a report on how bad it was for mental health in the New South Wales system. Because I haven't been in a very good way, I've been putting off doing that day after day after day. Welcome to following somebody with mental health issues. Tomorrow I'm going to do that video because my mental health is quite good now, and I reckon I should be turning out a video once every 2 or 3 days while everything's good. But over the last 24 hours, the Queensland Government has decided to start reviewing people living in social housing. This is a story from the ABC. It hasn't really made big news in other commercial media. Queensland Government to begin social housing rent reviews to free up spaces for those in most need. Social housing recipients in Queensland earning more than they should will soon be evicted from their homes to make way for new tenants. The state government claims there are some recipients earning well above the income limit that determines who is eligible for social housing. This includes a couple in Brisbane taking home more than $200,000 a year while paying less than $200 a week rent. The government says another family in Townsville is paying less than $190 per week in rent despite earning an annual income of more than $160,000. I'd say these be very rare cases. From the 1st of July, the government will launch annual rent reviews to determine if social housing recipients are still within income limit. In Queensland, the income limit for now this is where it's really important. In Queensland, the income limit for a single person with no children is $609 per week, while for a couple it's set at $755. Tenants pay 25% of their income. Those who are found to earn more than the limit will be charged market rental rates before they are evicted and transitioned to other housing options. Tenants who are within the housing limit but not paying 25% of their income will have their rent increased, but the increase will be capped at $15 per week. Housing Minister Sam O'Connor said the government wants to make social housing available for vulnerable people. We're empowering our housing officers to do what they do best, support the Queenslanders who are most at need. Middle class people make me sick. They also have another system of incentivising tenants to downsize. At the end of the March quarter, there were more than 52,000 people on the Queensland waiting list. Now, with those 52,000 people, the majority of those people would be single mothers. The average amount of children those single mothers would have would be 2. So we're actually looking at 156,000 people on Queensland social housing register, not 52,000. Which is about 2,000 more than the previous quarter. Queensland's cap of $609 per week for singles is lower than the ACT limit of $887, and South Australia's cap of $868, and the Northern Territory's limit of $1,088 in urban areas. The state's income cap of $99 per week for a couple with 2 children, which equates to $52,000 per year, is also lower than South Australia's cap of $1,737. It means, for example, a couple with 2 kids earning $55,000 per year is ineligible for social housing in Queensland, but would be in South Australia. I'm going to get into this a bit more about these income levels. At a press conference on Tuesday, Mr. O'Connor said the changing the income caps was not on the government's agenda. The eligibility is what it is, he said. It hasn't been touched by the government of any colour for many, many years. And in that, he is correct. This government in Queensland is a new government. For over 10 years, we had a Labor government, and the Labor government never indexed that eligibility price to, number one, at least the minimum wage. I'm going to get into that. And number two, yeah, I'm going to get into all of that. I'll finish this article. It is very troubling to see an aggressive approach being taken that would mean vulnerable Queenslanders would be exited from social housing when the eligible criteria is so low and there is a lack of affordable housing. So the Liberal National Party and the Queensland Premier actually think in their fantasy head that all this is perfectly okay, and the way to fix the housing problem is to kick people out of housing who are ripping off the system. But when you actually look at the criteria, a couple earning $755. Now let's go here to the Australian minimum wage. This is from the Australian Fair Work Ombudsman. The Australian Fair Work Ombudsman and the Australian Fair Work Commission are the people who set wages in this country. The national minimum wage applies to employees not covered by an award or registered agreement. This is the minimum pay rate provided by Fair Work Act of 2009 and is reviewed each year. As of the 1st of July 2024, the national minimum wage is $24.10 per hour or $915.90 per week. Employees covered by an award or registered agreement are entitled to minimum pay rates, including penalty rates and allowances in their award or agreement. These pay rates may be higher than the national minimum wage. So basically what the Queensland government is saying, in the middle class of Queensland and people in Queensland with money, is they actually live in this fantasy world that everybody who doesn't have money is ripping off the system and we can free up space in housing by kicking people out of housing. Now, the other insidious thing about this, if you look at the figures in all states that they mentioned, so in South Australia and the ACT and Northern Territory, all of those rates that they list are below the award rates. Right? So in effect what they're saying is that they want my children, my grandchildren, and anybody who has the unfortunateness of being born into a family who are on the lower end of the economic scale to never claw themselves out of poverty. Because if you live in social housing and you actually do something to improve the life of your children, like go and get a job, just go and get any job, all of a sudden your income level is above the eligibility for housing, and your children will lose their housing. Meaning, the best thing you can do for your children if you're living in social housing is never get a job. Because if you get a job, you're going to lose your housing. That condemns those children to poverty. It also means that those children will never see the people, the adults in their life working. Because to get a job is a disbenefit for those people. Not that there's any jobs for them, but that's a different issue. It's very quickly looking like the new Queensland government is just as bad as the last time we had a Liberal National Party government, which cut services to everything, except this time this government's cutting services to the poor rather than cutting services to the public service. So they're not going to do anything about housing apart from kick people out and put new people in, pretending that they're cutting the list. Any social housing program that has an eligibility criteria that means that if you go and get any form of work, you are no longer eligible for that social housing and you will be kicked out. Social housing isn't just for unemployed people, right? The whole concept of housing commission is to house people who are on low incomes, regardless of how they earn that low income. So in theory, what you have is suburbs and neighbourhoods that are full of people of all different income levels, making overall a better society. Under the eligibility criteria for Queensland social housing commission, the only way you're eligible for social housing is basically if you come from intergenerational poverty, and the criteria for social housing condemns the children of the people who live in social housing to continue to live in intergenerational poverty. I'm not going to make a comment on the Premier of Queensland's morals, apart from I personally think he doesn't have any. I don't think he has any empathy. And just like the Labor Party, who obviously didn't fix this while they were in power for 10 years, meaning that pretty much Labor has the same opinion about all this stuff as the Liberal Party do. Once again, we get back to the base ideals of both political parties are the same, and they both hate poor people. So that condemns generations of people into poverty, just because if you do anything to lift your children out of poverty, you'll lose housing, thereby throwing your children into worse poverty.